Right, ladies and gentlemen, and our viewers for today, we welcome you to your program, our program on this platform. It's Yoruba Referendum Committee, as represented by our usual guest, Alagbafemi Odediyi. Dare Yerokun is my name. You can put chief, you can put pastor. all of them work together. It's just about leadership and taking responsibility within our communities. And of course, it's not tied to titles. All of us have responsibilities regarding our community, regarding making our leaders accountable. And of course, also profiling solutions, if we can, to what we view as not working within the community. So that should not only be left for the representatives that we have voted for or selected to represent us at whether the State Assembly or at the National Assembly. So I'm going to welcome Alagbafemi Odediyi to the program today. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pastor Chief Uluwadari.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Yeah. Of course, people will also want to wish you Happy Father's Day. We don't know how many of that we do in a year because we have the UK one, we have the US, and that of Canada. I don't know whether Nigeria has picked its own separate date.
I don't know.
But the basic thing is just to celebrate all fathers, both the ones that are fathers in the real sense of it, or for others that have also find themselves in the role of a father. We pray that God will continue to strengthen you and fill you with wisdom. There are also people that have become fathers to nations. And this is where we're talking about being responsible beyond. I mean, we have the president. So we have the president, we have the community leaders, we have even the religious leaders. So, but in our own right, everybody is a father to the nation or to your community. Alagbafemi Odediyi, you were going to kick off from where we stopped last week. Last week, I think part of the questions towards the end of the program last week was about your group with some others, and we're going to look into that in a minute. Response to some Northern Voice who release a communique to talk about the problem in Nigeria and what they think is the solution. Your group and others have responded back by, I've seen the communique that was issued by your group. And when I say your group, that's not limited only to your referendum, I believe, with some others as well, addressing the views of those Northern Voice, especially in their identifying what they consider to be the problem. And your group's position is that if a doctor fails to actually investigate and get what the cause of the ailment is, there's a possibility the doctor will be will be issuing a wrong treatment,
yes,
which you felt actually happened with the communique that was released by those concerned persons from Northern Nigeria. So let's get it straight from here. Your group, which is Yoruba Referendum Committee, and some other individuals, are those individuals representing any nationality within Nigeria, or they are just on their own individual rights?
Well, they are both Yoruba and non-Yoruba signatories. Okay. Now, I won't say we are formally representing our nationalities, but we represent them in the sense that we have as much right to lend our voice. Just like the Yoruba Referendum Committee, we are not
Yes.
saying we represent Yoruba people. What we are saying is that we want Yoruba people to be able to define and defend themselves and the process of getting it done. So when we have an Ishekiri or an Urubu
Yeah.
signing up for that thing, that is essentially what they are saying also, that yes, they are Urubu, they are Shekiri, they are in Delta states, they are
Yeah.
from the South or Niger Delta. They are not saying, okay, oh, this is my voice. My voice is the voice of the Delta,
Right.
unless the Delta already gives them that right. But no one is claiming it. What we are simply
Mm-hmm.
saying is that we have a collective problem and we have a collective responsibility in addressing that problem. Similarly, well, we ascribe those we responded to. We said northern in quotes, because most of them, all of them, are from what we know as northern Nigeria.
Right.
Whether they claim to represent the voice of the North or not is not the issue. The question is they
Mm-hmm.
raised an issue that is of particular concern to both the North and the South. And in our own case, we told them, or we responded to them by saying, well, the problems you analyze, yeah, anyone can analyze the problem. We have so many ways of making a diagnosis of the problems of Nigeria. If you take 10 Nigerians, well, even if you take 10 Yoruba or 10 Igbo or 10 whatever, and ask them to analyze the problems of Nigeria, they will analyze it in 10 different ways.
Sorry.
So the problem is not in the diagnosis. The problem is in the remedy. That's why we called it right diagnosis, wrong remedy. Because whoever we represent, like us, like Yoruba Referendum Committee, for example, we say, yeah,
Yeah.
there's this problem in Nigeria, and this is the way we think it should be resolved. That's why we are appealing to Yoruba people to support the idea of the Yoruba referendum. So if we had said that we are the voice of the Yoruba people, we are not going to be asking them to support it now. We'll be
Mm-hmm.
giving them
Mm-hmm.
orders. So yeah, do it this way. No, we are saying this is the way out to solve this problem, and we expect Yoruba people to embrace it. So similarly, the people from the other non-Yoruba areas that signed up to it will be saying the same things to their communities. And even, well, you are a chief in a Yoruba community. You are a chief in your community, and you can get your community to embrace it, right? As a
Yeah.
chief, as a voice in the community. So uh, it's a question of, at this point, let me say at this point, we are not saying we represent the South in
Yeah.
quotes. What we are saying is our program as Yoruba Referendum Committee, for example, is applicable to everybody.
Okay.
So it is now the responsibility of every nationality to embrace the idea and sell it to their own people. Because the way we are going to do it in Yoruba land may be different from the way they are going to do it in other places. But the basic central idea is what unites all of us. We hope we will get to that point where we can then say, let's say, for example, we get the Yoruba Houses of Assembly to
Mm.
endorse the Yoruba referendum as the way out, then we can say we are speaking on behalf of Yoruba people. Yeah, let's vote on it and see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, we are not acting in isolation, and we don't want to act in isolation. So, as we progress, this response, I would say, is a starting point, because in reality, We have been talking about this thing for a long time. And you find organizations and individuals backing off at one point or the other. But I will say this is the first time I will find non-Yoruba people endorsing the idea as the way forward.
Right.
So the next stage will now be, okay, how do they pursue it in their areas? How do we pursue it in our areas? We can then compare notes, advise each other, and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a good step and a necessary first step in the right direction.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's now get into the response itself.
Yes.
The northern concerned persons believe that, like you said, all what is wrong with Nigeria. However, they believe that if things can be done differently, still within the foundation that we have, that there's a way out. Your group opposed that actually the foundation has to be resolved before any meaningful thing or any meaningful progress could, not like the short-term progress that just come and then goes, but that for something long-lasting and meaningful to happen in Nigeria, that we have to visit the foundation.
Right. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
before you answer that question, because it's going to be in two parts. Why do you think, and this is just going to be your views or your opinion, that from the north, they seem not to accept that the foundation is where the problem is? That would be the first question. Then you can then go on to now expatiate on your response, your group's response to their communique. So, but the first one is, because we've seen this, it's not just happening, but over time we've seen that mostly from the north, they believe that the foundation is fine. It's only that things should just be done differently. Why do you think they seem to have? Not everybody in the north do, but from the majority of those voices that have come out of the north, it's always been like, yeah, let's just put some couple of things in place. They don't really go back to that foundation to say, no, this foundation was wrong from the start. We need to lay this foundation or revisit this foundation and then decide on what needed to be done.
Yeah, it's what I would call a northern problem, in the sense that the power that the north enjoys today is because the foundation of Nigeria's federalism was destroyed. So they changed the foundation, created their own foundation, and then wants everyone to go along with it. That's why they don't want to address it. And it is a historical thing that during the anti-colonial movements and stuff, in broad categories, we have the NPC in the north with Ahmadu Bello Action Group in the west and the NCNC in the east. But what were they talking about? The Action Group was talking about what we now call true federalism, to have a balanced federation with nationalities and all that and all that. The NPC in the north was saying, well, they don't mind any system in Nigeria as long as they are in control. And of course, the NCNC said, we are tribalists and this, they want to be, we should all be one and all the rest of it. So you have a foundation. That foundation now led to the war. Essentially, what I would call a war between the East and the North, because they started the whole shenanigans. In 59, they formed an alliance in, stuff like that. They went to the they changed the constitution simply because they wanted to retain Awolowo in jail and all the rest of it. These are common knowledge. So by the time the war settled, the question of Nigeria came on board again, but it was sidestepped. Why was this sidestepped? Because the North had gained absolute control of the military and the country. So they changed the constitution from the federal system that we had and made it a militarized constitution. So when Abubakar, the head of state that handed over in 1999, was talking about the military smuggling something into the constitution, he referenced the entire constitutional process from 1979, where the military, Obasanjo was the head of state, where they manipulated again the constitution that was crafted by the Constituent Assembly and inserted their own clauses into it, to the same thing to the 1989 constitution, then what we now have as the 1999 constitution, which the leader now accepts that they smuggled a lot. We don't know how many things they smuggled in, but they smuggled a lot of things into it. So right from 1978, 79 is when we've been having the foundation that we have now. And they are just changing it. So it almost makes sense for Northern intellectuals not to see anything wrong in it because it serves the purpose that the North always wanted. So all they, just like when Abubakar said they smuggle some things in, it's like saying, okay, this thing is not going to favor us. So what do we smuggle in that will make it favor us? They will smuggle it in. They have not questioned the rationale behind the document itself, and they can't because they want it to serve their purpose. So that is what is happening now. So when these guys now came and said, all we need is this and that to correct this, to correct that, is to lull us to sleep by saying, yeah, the constitution is fine, but we can just patch it up here and there. And we are saying, aside from the fact that you smuggle things into the constitution is not even made by us. So it cannot even be fine. So the question really now is, why are they afraid of, even let's assume that we are not asking for a new constitution. Why are they afraid of the people's voice in the constitution? Why are they saying, which will now dovetail into our response, so why are they always saying it is only the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly that can do this and alter that? Once they alter it, the president will sign and it becomes part of the constitution. Yes, they will say, we had stakeholders. What kind of stakeholders did you have? Do you need a stakeholder to change the name of a local government, for example? Do you need a stakeholder to say that we, the people, did not make this document? So if you ask us, the first question you will ask is, did we, the people, make this document? And we say, no, we didn't make it because we didn't even know what's inside. So the question now is, how do we, the people, now make a document that favors us? So that's the argument that we are making. We have made to them and we are making to generality of the people. And aside from all other considerations, the fact that the head of the military government at that time said that they smuggled some things into that document already nullifies it. It invalidates it because no one gave the military. We fought the military now to hand over to civilian. So how can you now act on our behalf? Although this is a different case, so it's like the current thing going on in the Middle East now. Israel and Iran the US and Iran reached an agreement. Israel was not involved in the agreement, but now you are saying Israel should abide by that agreement. It doesn't make any sense. So if the military manipulated the constitution to serve its own purpose, and you are not saying it's we, the people, that make it, it's not true.
It's not. Yes.
It's not true. So we, the people, have a right to say this and this and this and that. At that point, you won't be able to smuggle anything in. If you smuggle it
Mhm.
in, we will know, and we will say, Otio, so it's not like that. This is not the, but we have no way of doing that. So that is our major problem with these deniers. Let me call it deniers of reality, because it doesn't favor them, and it shouldn't matter to us, that is Yoruba people or any other people, whether it favors them or it doesn't favor them. What favors us? So what do we want for ourselves that favor us? If you can't live with what we want for ourselves, then that's a different discussion entirely. But we must first of all be able to ascertain what we want for ourselves. And that is the major issue that face the intellectuals from the North. And we should not sit back and let them continue on that wrong road by agreeing with them that there is nothing wrong with the foundation. We have to call them back. Wow, the foundation is the problem. Any other thing that we want to talk about is because that foundation is the problem. And that is the point we made, and we will continue to make.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alagbafemi or Dedi. So in the sense where we have the North going one part, obviously everybody will take on what is of interest to them. And in terms of political representations and representatives, the way the country has been sort of demarcated politically, the northern Nigeria seems to have more representatives than the combined number of the southern Nigerian representatives, which to an extent means if the North decides to vote against a particular bill, and I'm talking at the National Assembly, that means most likely the bill will not go through.
Yeah.
But despite this, and I know this this will also be your views or opinion, and people have over time stated that even if Southern Nigeria can work together, although the Northern representation might be more in number than those from Southern Nigeria, but one way or the other, there will be someone that would not be happy within the North or something that will say, okay, either the person decide not to even vote at all or something like that. So people have been asking that. Now the North is pursuing its interest. And that's the reason, like you said, that they've maintained that the foundation is fine. Let's just make ourselves accountable. Let's put this system in place. Whereas most of the people from Southern Nigeria believes, just like your organization, that there's a problem with the foundation.
Right.
There's two questions that is going to come from there. Number one is, why is it that the Southern Nigeria cannot work together? Even we're not expecting 100%, even up to, let's say, about 70%. Why is it difficult for them to pool their resources together in terms of political representation to start making a statement for the North? And then the second aspect, which you've mentioned, is the one with the former head of state, that's retired General Abdulsalam, that have actually came out and said, yeah, we smuggle things into the Constitution. Do you think that statement will make things to change, or will it kickstart something that will lead to what you have been talking about in terms of going back to the Constitution and making it a constitution of the people? rather than the one that was smuggled and created by the military.
Yeah, okay. I'll start from the second one and then go
Okay.
back to the first one. Yeah, that it should, let me, that's the, it should, that statement or that admission by Abdulsalam Abubakar ought to now ginger up the need for a wholesale comprehensive review of the constitutional process. It should. That is what people should now anchor the argument on. There are so many arguments that can be made. But once the head of the regime that gave them the constitution says that they smuggled a lot of things into the constitution, that already makes that constitution invalid. Because you can't, it's like saying, it's like going to a court of law and the judge reads a judgment, and then so I mean whether it's good analogy or not, but the judge now says the judgment that I'm reading, no, something was smuggled into it by the chief judge, but you have to accept it. The chief judge smuggled something into the judgment. Then the judge read the judgment and afterwards says, you know what I did, what I read, that judgment that I read, parts of it was smuggled in by the chief judge. That makes that judgment invalid. So when the head of the regime makes such an admission, that should kickstart the whole process. That look, this is not, you can't amend a forgery because that is what it is. When you have already done something and then you smuggle some things in and then you pass it into law, it's a forgery. So you can't amend a forged document. A forged document by definition is invalid. So whether our people will take that up from that perspective or not, we will see. But we will continue to make that case that even from when they say from the horse's mouth, that is coming from the horse's mouth that this document is a forgery. Or when the Yoruba will say Osuju Abenko, all the arguments that we have been making, Abubakar ti sọ ojú abẹ níkù by saying pé àwọn ti yí ìwé yẹn kan tó gbélé wa lọ́wọ́. I mean, I have to say it in that Yoruba language to make it better. The English one sounds more anyway. Anyway, so that is the case, and that is the case we will start making from now on, and we have solid evidence for that. Now, and that is one problem with Nigerian, let me say Nigerian activists or intellectuals and stuff. We don't take our so-called leaders by their own words. We don't challenge them except only when we want to harass them. We don't challenge them on the basis of the validity of their ideas. So, and the validity and the morality. So when the head of state says they smuggled some stuff into the constitution, it should not just be left hanging just like that. We should be able to take it up at his word. Now, on the other side, whether how the South can work together and stuff like that, like I said, history gives us a view of what happens in the future. The basic problem in the South is the question of federalism or unitarism. You see, when the East continues to claim that they are what they call nation builders because they go all over the country, who doesn't go all over the country among the various Nigerian nationalities? You find people of different nationalities everywhere, in every location. But when they now take it upon themselves to make a claim that they are the only ones building the country, that becomes a problem. So one way, excuse me, one way of working together or resolving the problem is for them to shelve that notion. We are all nation builders, everyone. If you want to build Nigeria, we are all nation builders. No one is a greater nation builder than the other. So they have to shelve that notion internally and forget about being this and that. That is number one. Number two, we have in the West for the Yoruba, I think it's a done deal. Federalism, the question of federalism is a done deal. We may have different ways of going about it or letting it manifest. We can be fighting it among ourselves. But the centrality of federalism for Nigeria is a done deal. For the East, I'm not too sure whether it's a done deal or not. So one of the ways people can work together is when you have that commonality of interest. What is the done deal for them? In the Niger Delta, that is the non-Igbo speaking areas of the East, they are talking about resource control. And they have been fighting about it. Even in the Middle Belt, they are talking about self-determination, their regions and stuff like that. What is the position of the East? If we don't hear Biafra, we will hear nation building. So the solution to working together in the South has to be the creation and the identification of that common factor. We have to have that common factor. And it is manifesting now that it is not the question for the Yoruba Referendum Committee to address in its own way. We will address it. But look at the political spectrum that is going on now. You have a Yoruba president, and then that has another term of 4 years. So now you have Southern Igbo candidates wanting to contest against him. So the groundwork for non-cooperation is already being laid. That we say this is, in their own arrangements, is between the North and South, right? So one way or the other, the Yoruba took that position the first 4 years. But you are now coming out to challenge him and promising that you will spend the next 4 years for whatever he wants to do. So what we are saying is, while groups like us, like the Yoruba Referendum Committee and all that, we can be talking about self-determination, autonomy, true federalism and all that, we can't speak for every other nationality. And whether in our own case, whether we support Tinubu or not, the point is, it doesn't make any sense for any Southerner to rise now and say he wants to challenge another Southern president, knowing full well that even if you succeed, your votes will come from the North. And that was what happened in the First Republic when NCNC aligned with the MPC to truncate the possibility of an AG NCNC alliance, which will have run the country. So from the side of the elites or the politician, they also have to examine themselves. That we are not saying we are that Tinubu is the master, this and that. No, the point is he is the president from the South. You even have Northerners like Atiku, who has consistently claimed that there is nothing like North-South. And he will contest against any, he has it. So they don't joke with power in the North. We in the South, we joke with power. Why do we joke with power? Because we don't see a South. We don't see a South. We see East and West. And there's no problem with that. We see West and Eastern. So, and we are comfortable with it. That's why we keep emphasizing on Yoruba referendum. We are not talking about a Nigerian referendum or a Southern referendum. We are talking about a Yoruba referendum. So let each nationality, even in the South, take care of its interests. Otherwise, we can't stop the competition in a sense. We can't stop the competition, we can only manage it. And the best way of managing it is for each of the nationalities in the South to ensure that the structure is changed that gives us the ability to address our situation. Otherwise, whoever is the president, whether North or South, we simply have to be managing with the National Assembly, no matter the configuration, whether by bribery, by persuasion, by anything, and the cycle goes on like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Alogafemi Odedeyi, because it would seem that if the South could come together, then that would be a challenge. But then you've taken us back to history, the NCNC alliance and the continuous contestation for power among it's practically the elites, or elites, whichever way people calls it, because the people, they just follow where they are directed. We've got roughly about 2 minutes to go on this program, and we won't leave without touching just briefly what is happening in terms of security and in terms of or your state. Do you think with where we are now, because it would seem that the government is waiting to thin out the terrorists that are holding the pupils, but it's also like the terrorists also are trying to thin out the government in terms of attacks going on elsewhere, whether they would divert military resources to those areas. Do we see an end in sight soon?
Well, I will say yes and no. Because of time, I will just rush it. We can continue later next week. Yes and no, because the terrorists study the government. I don't know whether the government studies the terrorists. That is the key. The terrorists study the government. They know how they behave. They have people inside government and all the rest. The government probably don't have that capacity, or they don't utilize it. So that is one problem. Then otherwise, what you have been saying is what they should have done. Change the political architecture. Once the terrorists know that a new political system is emerging, they will change, because they can't control that political system. We can talk about that
we'll
later.
talk. We'll expatiate on it next
that is
week.
the key. Yes.